Good morning to all of you. I'm Mike Van Dusen, Executive Vice President of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. I'd like to welcome you to the center and what promises to be an engaging day of discussion on the role of women in Liberia's post-conflict reconstruction. We are delighted that the Wilson Center was able to be the convener of a conversation on this important topic. We are especially honored to have Olubanke King-Akerele, author of the book and former Foreign Minister of Liberia, with us, and President Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf of Liberia joining us this morning by video conference. They are two of the many brave Liberian women who have played a critical role in the transition of Liberia from a war-torn state to an emerging and vibrant democracy. There is much to be learned globally on the roles of women in leadership from their Liberian examples. The title of today's program is Women's Leadership in Post-Conflict Liberia, My Journey. We are co-sponsoring this event with several partners, the Angie Brooks International Center for Women's Empowerment, Leadership, Development, International Peace and Security, the African Women's Development Fund, and our own Africa program, the Leadership Project, and the Council of Women World Leaders. I might say that Angie Brooks is another extraordinary example of a Liberian diplomat, I believe, and jurist, who is the only African woman to have served, I believe, as president of the United Nations General Assembly, and she did so, I believe, in 1970. For those who are new to the center, let me give a two-sentence commercial. The Woodrow Wilson Center is the National Living Memorial honoring our 28th president. In a tribute to Wilson, who was the only U.S. president to have earned a doctorate, Ph.D., the Wilson Center provides a link between academia and public policy. The center was created by an act of Congress in 1968 and is supported by both public and private funds. We offer a nonpartisan setting for research and dialogue on issues of national and international significance. Today's topic fits right with our mission, and we wish you all a very productive day of discussion. I'll now turn the microphone over to my colleague and partner in Liberia via video conference, Counselor Yvette Chesson-Wura, who is the Establishment Coordinator for the Angie Brooks Center. Welcome, Yvette, and thank you for everyone for coming and listening in, both here and in Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Van Dusen. Fellow guests, it is an honor that the Angie Brooks International Center for Women's Empowerment, Leadership Development, International Peace and Security, the concrete outcome of the International Women's Colloquium held in Monrovia March 7 to 8, 2009, will invite you to launch this remarkable and historic book of our former Foreign Minister and former Minister of Commerce and Industry, Her Excellency Olubanke King-Akerele. The book is entitled Women's Leadership in Post-Conflict Liberia, My Journey. We are extremely pleased to have present with us Her Excellency Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, President of the Republic of Liberia. This book, which will be launched today, is remarkable and unique for several reasons. Two of such reasons are that the project directly under the research and documentation component of the Angie Brooks International Center, in line with one of the 5 thematic areas of the center. As its title depicts, the book delves into the context of women's leadership in post-conflict Liberia and goes on to deal with the contextual issues, experiences, and challenges, bringing to light and documenting essential information so dearly needed for the current and future generations. King-Akerele unfolds her challenges like nuggets of knowledge being discovered and leaves her reader wondering, what next? The documentation of women's leadership in a post-conflict context has risen to another level with this book's publication. Secondly, significantly unique is the fact that this book launch is the first under our thematic areas of research and documentation, and that the author of such a resource material is our own Olubanke King-Akerele, one of the brains of the International Colloquium and visionary of the Angie Brooks International Center. As Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Nigeria during the Colloquium and throughout and during the establishment of the center, she's ably performed her role as the minister with oversight responsibility of the center, ensuring that the works of the center is focused, goal-oriented, and impactful. King-Akerele serves on ABIC's board and has continued to guide its progress even though she's on medical leave from the cabinet. Her support to ABIC is extraordinary, and her participation in our work, like the staffing of the Liberian Women's Situation Room during our just-ended presidential elections in 2011, shows her commitment not only to ABIC, but also to our beloved Liberia. This book is an example of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 in action. This is the first of its kind in Africa, where you have a post-conflict woman minister with two substantive portfolios, giving her perspective on the challenges faced in this post-conflict country and how they were resolved. This book will become a mainstay and resource material for all public administrators, political science students, as well as professionals doing development work in post-conflict countries. In conclusion, let me acknowledge our partner, the African Women Development Fund, the publishers of this book, for once again supporting us to do innovative work that would not have been done were it not for their funding and vision. AWDF is a founder of ABIC, has continued to provide support to the Angie Brooks International Center. The Council of Women World Leaders, also a founding member of ABIC, continues to be involved and supportive of our work as council members Tarja Halonen of Finland, Mary Robinson of Ireland, and our own President Johnson-Sirleaf continues to monitor our progress. The Executive Director of the Council, Laura Liswood, sends an intern yearly to help with ABIC's work. May I also acknowledge the Wilson Centers, the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia, all the illustrious panelists and guests for the decision to participate in this launching ceremony. There's no doubt you made the right decision to associate with this historic occasion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chesson-Were. I'm Steve McDonald, the Director of the Africa Program and the Project on Leadership and Building State Capacity. I'd also like to welcome you to the Center. I welcome and thank our co-sponsors. I won't repeat them as Mike has already given them a little bit of a plug. Also, of course, I'm glad that Councillor Chesson-Were said some words about our Council on Women World Leaders, of whom, of course, the Honorable President is a member. President Johnson-Sirleaf, of course, has been a champion of leadership work that we have been doing in Liberia since 2006, and I want to make mention of that here. The Woodrow Wilson Center began with my former colleague, now departed Howard Wolpe, and I in 2005, a project on building trust and post-conflict peace building and reconciliation work. Without the great support of the President, we would not have been able to achieve the goals that we have achieved. She attended our opening workshop. She has consulted with us along the way, attended at least one of the other workshops, and has been a great supporter. This is work we're very proud of. We hope to continue it in the future, and we're thankful for the President for the support she has given us. I am now going to introduce the President, who will give us, she can only stay with us for about 15 minutes, so we have to get her up front. I probably need to say very little about President Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf. She's so well known, 24th President of Liberia, and of course the first elected female head of state in Africa. She's now serving in her second term, just re-elected last year, and of course won the Nobel Peace Prize, one of three laureates in 2011, including a fellow Liberian. I first met President Johnson-Sirleaf, and I'm sure she will remember, when I was at African American Institute with Vivian Lowry Derrick, and she was, I think, at that time working at it was either Citicorp or the World Bank in New York, I think, or maybe the UNDP. and she came to help us start Friends of Liberia during the very dark days of Liberia with Jane Martin and Vivian Lowry Derrick in the 1990s. She's very supportive in helping us to work with the population in Liberia. So I was very, very pleased to have met her then, watched her career, which you've all watched as a development specialist, as a banking official, as a member of government. She had to flee Liberia at one time, but now is back in a very important position, and we welcome having her as a partner in building Liberia's future. I'm now going to turn over to Emmett Dennis, President of the University of Liberia, the highest institute of learning in the Republic of Liberia, the honorable task of introducing the President and her remarks. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Mr. King. Oh, I got the wrong name.
Yes.
My very, very, very grave apology. So it's Mr. King, Charles T. King, President of Liberia Finance and Trust Company, who's going to do the formal invitation to the President.
Thank you. It is a great pleasure and honor to play a role in this launching as one who has closely witnessed the journey of which Honorable King-Akerele writes. The journey, Banky's journey, professional journey of public service, so consumed my sister that she would not stop, even when her health appeared to be on the line. Her family, friends, and doctors appealed to her to take time off in order to take care of herself. But in her total commitment to put service before self, she will always say, there is one more thing to complete. Madam President, we are therefore pleased that during her period of leave from public service, Banky has finally been able to attend to her medical needs in the USA, where she is recovering from shoulder surgery as recently as 3 months ago. During this period, as we are witnessing here today, she has continued to be productive and completed her story on her role, indeed her journey, in public service as part of your reconstruction efforts in your first administration. It is therefore with pride and joy that I and my wife Elizabeth and our Uncle Joseph G. Riches have been chosen to represent our family to this occasion to confirm the continued tradition of public service over several generations to another family member, Banky, and to express appreciation, Madam President, to you for the role you have kindly agreed to play in this rather unusual book launching by video conference. Of particular significance is the fact that this launching is taking place through the kind courtesy of the Embassy of the United States of America, for which the family expresses appreciation, while noting the fact that the first ambassador of Liberia and the first African ambassador to the United States, our late grandfather, former CDB King. And indeed, Banky has dedicated her book to both our father and grandfather for their role in Liberia's foreign service, while adding a further dedication to her grandson, Edward Newell IV. It is my great honor, it is with great honor that I invite Your Excellency to do the launching of Banky's book. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King, and let me say to all of those who have come here how pleased we are to be a part of this occasion. Thank you, Banky, for writing this book, thereby joining the small group of Liberians who have taken the time to record their experiences. We will follow this journey by reading the book, a journey that started in April 2006 when you agreed to join the administration in serving your country as the Minister of Commerce and Industry. In that role, Banky was able to engineer a process that ultimately opened the market for the importation of our basic staples and brought Liberian participation into a business that had before then been monopolized by non-Liberians. She also introduced systems in the Ministry of Commerce and started the process for Liberia's accession to the World Trade Organization. Having performed very well, she moved on to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, where she introduced what is now being maintained and called economic diplomacy, one in which she stressed that ambassadors and representatives of government should go out and engage in dialogue relating to development. This was not surprising because Banky has been in the development business for almost all her years of service to Liberia and to the international community. At UNIFEM, she brought the same commitment, integrity, creativity to the task that she brought there, and we had a chance to see her even before she served government. Banky is still remembered today by all of those who worked in all the institutions with which she worked. When she also worked in the UN system, she almost became the head of UNIDO. And she played a great role there as one of the leaders of that institution. What can I say about her? Her service has been so exemplary. So we're going to follow this journey, and I hope that all Liberians will have an opportunity to read this book, to see what it takes to demonstrate commitment, to see the obstacles one faces. And she faced a lot of obstacles in all the institutions in which she worked because she brought the strength of character to everything that she did. And it meant sometimes opposing things that were wrong. And those who felt themselves not willing to change would find all kinds of means. She had a tough time at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs where resistance to change was so strong. But she left a record that we all can be proud of. Today, as I travel around and sitting on regional meetings, international meetings, many people still ask me, well, where's that Minister of Foreign Affairs as you have? I say, well, you know, she's not well, and we know that she left service because she had to seek medical attention, as Charles has already mentioned. But just think, even as she's now doing medical attention, she's taken the time to write a book. That tells you the kind of drive that she has, that she brings to anything. She just can't sit still. She's got to keep doing something. I understand this is one of 3 books that are going to be written by her. And so we'll read this one, follow that journey, and wait for, as the journey continues, through the other 2 books that will follow. Banky, you've been a great servant to Liberia. You've been a great leader, not only to your country, but to the international community. We applaud you. We'll continue to hold you up as you address your medical problems, and we hope we'll see you return to the work of your country, to support of your country in a more active way. It is now my pleasure to officially launch this book, Women in Leadership in Post-Conflict Liberia, My Journey, by my good, long-time friend, childhood friend, by my colleague in service to humanity, Olubanke King-Akerele.
Thank you so very much, Madam President. What eloquent remarks. We'll give Banky a moment now to come up and defend herself or bask in that glory, whichever she feels necessary. You'd be interested, Madam President, that she hasn't really stopped working. We had a meeting here the other day on the troubles, as you're well aware of, in Mali and the coup there. And we had Jibril Basoli, the foreign minister of Burkina Faso, in to speak about that. And Banki came and was consulting with him and confiding with him and giving him some guidance on how to move forward. So she's still at work. She never stops. So I'm going to introduce very briefly Banki. You've got, again, her information in front of you, but she, as the President said, is the former Minister of Commerce and Industry from 2006 until, I think, 2007, when she became the Foreign Minister. But she had 24 years of government services, international development, and senior levels of the United Nations system. We won't go through all of that, but working with UNIFEM, amongst others, UNESCO, UNDP, and UNIDO. She has her master's degree from Northeastern University. And she has several publications in the areas of gender development, regional integration, capital flight, and brain drain. I'm also going to, at the same time, introduce Emmett Dennis, who I introduced prematurely, because he is going to make remarks right after Banki has concluded in sort of reviewing the book for us before we open up for the panel. So Banki, with no further ado.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam President, Her Excellency Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, the Executive Vice President, the entire participants here, and Steve MacDonald, all the members of the panel, Your Excellency Ambassador, all the members of the distinguished panel in Liberia, in Washington, D.C., ambassadors here present. Let me foremost express my appreciation to the Wilson Center and the U.S. Embassy in Liberia, his former ambassador here, but your colleague there, Dehab, took up the charge, and I want to thank you all for making this possible. In doing so, I want to say that the fact that we are here today owes a special word of thanks to my daughter, Bahia. And the reason is that Bahia used to work here at the Wilson Center with the late Howard Volpe in the Africa program. And it was when I told her what I wanted to do, Bahia said immediately, let us contact the Wilson Center. And they responded to that, and I was just thrilled. And I think all of you would say that if you have a daughter that can do something like this, she has to be someone special. Bahia, I thank you for this, and I want to acknowledge her. Now I want to express my personal thanks to you, Madam President. I'm simply overwhelmed, Madam President. I've never heard all of that before. You didn't need to say all of that before, I know, because we go back too far. But I really have been so overwhelmed, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you very, very much. I want to thank you for the encouragement. I want to thank you that you are here to do this rather unusual launch, this video conference launch. When I first talked about it, everybody's not possible. But look what is possible when you move together, and when women move together. With all due respect, Wilson Center, you had a woman with you working on this. So this is possible. We had the establishment coordinator back there who did it. We had Dehab. We have Ali here and your colleagues here who were behind the scenes. So this is what is possible. And I want to thank all of you for making this possible. African Women Development Fund in particular, I want to express my gratitude. We would not have been able to do this without you. African Women Development Fund was with us, as well as the Council of Women World Leaders when we did the International Colloquium some years ago. Special appreciation to you. Now, to my book. As the president of the university, Emmett Dennis will be giving you a review of the book. I'm not going to walk you through it at all. My intention here is to say something about the motivation, why I felt it was necessary to do it, and the context. You have heard from the president which ably situated that context. But what were the considerations behind the book? Why were they there? I want to say that foremost, it is important to recognize those who have contributed and who have made us what we are. What we achieve is due to a lot of other people. Nobody achieves success by themselves. And it was extremely important for me, for the next generation, for Africa's future and Liberia's emergent leadership to understand what they have before them, where they are going, and that a lot of people help to put things on the ground to make things possible. So a background of public service, national service, was very critical. The international development experience that I was fortunate to have had was also critical in the formation of where I am. The ability to network, which is a direct result of my UN system of 24 years experience. From UNIFEM, the UN system overall. I just met Mr. Weiss here. He said to me, "You're my former boss." I said, "Where, what?" Did some work for us with DRC when we were at UNDP. The issue of networking and the individuals who play a role in making things possible and where you are is what is so important. And I wanted in my book to give recognition to that. In that regard, I want to highlight the late Professor Ruth Morgenthau, Adlai Stevenson's professor at Brandeis University. She played a major role not only in my formation, but during the time of the crisis in Liberia. I went to her. I said, "I need your help." Liberia was in crisis. The president, my dear friend, Ellen, was incarcerated. We need your help. We need the help of the U.S. What did Ruth Morgenthau do? Put me in touch with Steve Solas and the late Howard Volpe. Help her. Help Liberia. And that is how we started moving. And that is how Howard Volpe, the late Howard Volpe, got involved in the Liberian situation from as far back as late that. So we are giving here recognition to those who played important roles in making things happen. The book identifies a number of people at the UN, even with the papacy, the representative of the Pope to the UN, and so on. Experiences, therefore, of people networking and making things happen is important. I want also especially for our young people, Liberia's future leaders, to understand that the intergenerational change you're talking about is what I call succession planning. But succession planning means you've got to be prepared. And so what we are most proud of, my legacy at Ministry of Commerce and Industry and at Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is preparing the next generation. The Development Diplomats program that we introduced was the most exciting thing, thanks to UNDP. Very quickly, because it's very important, through the Foreign Service Institute, we're able to introduce our young people to development diplomacy. Then we send them into the field, to the embassies. And they spend some days at the embassies, some days in the field, operationalizing what development diplomacy was, working with World Bank, working with the ILO and other international organizations. At the end of the 6 months, those young Liberians were no longer Liberians. They had a perspective that is so exciting, they couldn't believe it. Where are they today? Japan, Brussels, different assignments. So the issue of preparing the future. Then also we had training of those in country. Very important, a whole new breed. We also had leadership training. Connie Morris was able to help us there. And we tried to emphasize what I call also raising the bar. This is another reason why this book is here. Setting new standards, bringing in values. The essence of economic governance and transparency. We inherited, as the president often said, a dysfunctional society. How do you get it moving? You have to put in systems. This is what we try to do at the ministry. At the same time, We want to highlight the role of our ambassadors in the field, our foreign missions. They are often neglected. People don't know what they're doing. They're doing wonderful things, important things. Ambassador from Bamus, for example, from Ghana. We worked with him very well. We had the refugee crisis problem there. We helped there tremendously. He helped with the succession planning and all. So we set new standards, and this is what we're trying to do. We have to raise the bar. We have to stop that this too is Liberia phenomenon. That this too is Liberia phenomenon is mediocrity. We cannot settle for mediocrity. The president wants us to aim to be a middle-income country. By 2030, Madam President? Well, for us to be there, we've got to change the mind. We have to have values. We've got to reach for the sky. We cannot accept mediocrity. That was the essence of what I was about at the ministry. And those who came on board today, they know what it was about because they are Liberia's future. So we set out to document the challenges. We did that, the response to the challenges. But there were costs. You heard the president. The costs were real. The costs were life-threatening. It was not easy, as we say in Liberia. And those costs are no different from what there's a World Bank, Miguel Chimale, who talks about why does reform not happen. He is in charge of the World Bank Economic and Poverty Eradication in Africa. He says, why does essential reform not happen? Essential reform doesn't happen because there are vested interests, and there are people who's going to block it. But you have to stand up and you have to fight because you want to make it happen. Finally, I want to say that the issue of continuity and sustainability, that is the bottom line. How do we sustain what we put in effect? My proposal is the following. Madam President, Director of Civil Service, I believe that the Director of Civil Service must play an overall supervisory role as regards reforms that are being put in place in ministries and continuity. How do you not reverse it? How, for example, do you not ensure? How do you ensure, for example, that processes that are underway continue, not because a minister changed? How, for example, when you set standards that you must not put cars on the road without insurance? How do you ensure that those principles are maintained? As soon as a minister leaves, you go back to square one? What about our honorary consuls? How do you maintain what we put in effect? You came, Madam President, you changed the whole thing. We put in guidelines for new honorary consuls. It's documented. How do you ensure that that continues? How do you ensure it doesn't go back? Who's going to do that supervision? How do you ensure that our ambassadors working very hard in the field get the necessary finance? Minister of Finance, are you there? Minister of Finance, are you there? Former Minister of Finance. Former Minister of Finance, are you there? Well, former Minister of Finance, you are now Minister of Foreign Affairs. Former Minister of Finance, please take a look at all of my letters sent to you, crying for assistance for my embassies, for my ambassadors. Please take a look at my letters. Yeah, our people working very hard in the field. They don't have money. We need to set up that private-public partnership to manage our assets abroad. We've got quality assets. They're all declining. Please, new Minister of Foreign Affairs, take a look at my communications. Please do something for our people in the field. My plea was that, and this was one of the major things that we tried to do. My people at the headquarters did all kinds of things to me because we put priority on taking care of Liberia's image in the field, of our ambassadors, of our diplomatic and non-diplomatic staff. Thank you very much. These are some of the things we try to do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Banke. Dr. Dennis, we'll turn it over to you.
He's preaching from the podium.
I must say goodbye to all good friends, but I I have to get a budget to the legislature by 5 o'clock today. So, and I promise you, Banky, that I will, before I submit it, I will make sure I look at what's in there for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Still around?
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, Dr. Dennis.
All right. Protocol observed. Today, we're launching one of the most powerful and intriguing chronologies of a determined, dedicated, committed, and compassionate patriot whose life and accomplishments have and continue to seek and find relevance in humanity. The book, Women's Leadership in Post-Conflict Liberia, My Journey, by Excellency Olubanke King-Akerele, could be classified as a case study of our national public life, which reveals as much, if not more, lessons to be learned than the history of an entire era. About the book, Dr. William Allen, Director General Civil Services Agency, writes, "This book is a must-read for all women and men who need guidance and mentoring on the challenges, consequences, and sacrifices required to stand up for one's conviction." And I would add also a must-read for every student, staff, faculty of our universities, high school, elementary school in the country. Dr. Kanda Yokeli, in his foreword to the book, captures another powerful dimension of the author when he writes that the story of great societies is made out of courageous exploits of its citizens, men and women who stood firm and raised daunting odds to uphold fundamental rights to development, leaders who delivered results for their people. Olubanke King-Akerele is one such citizen, an incorruptible and indefatigable development Amazon. As I myself read the book, Women's Leadership in Post-Conflict Liberia, My Journey, I found the organization of the text very inviting and user-friendly. And it's reading so, for want of a better phrase, it's reading so vintage Banky. She writes with the same articulate intensity and passion with which she talks. You just heard her. I've read only one or two books that give so much information on one page in a coherent and readable, friendly manner so that every sentence whets one's appetite for the next sentence, and each page does the same thing for the next page, and each chapter cannot end fast enough to begin reading the next chapter. I'm just amazed by the smooth, outpouring, sequential flow of her thoughts, which of course unequivocally originates from a superactive brain. The organization of the book allows for effective scanning of the content and selective, detailed reading of specific chapters. The preface of the book sets the focus of 5 years of public service in Liberia at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It also describes the attending environment in which she functioned and grappled to reform. From a near dysfunctional state because of the impact of the civil strife to efficient functioning ministries in congruence with the nation's agenda as espoused by the articulated vision of President Johnson-Sirleaf. Then, a short introduction to each chapter is given, summarizing the expected content of the chapter. Chapters 2 to 6 present details before and after Reformation. Then in the last chapter, on takeaway lessons and postscripts, the author summarizes the effects, meanings, and ramifications of actions she took to reform many of the apparent anomalies which she inherited and encountered at both ministries. I could not help but extrapolate that if the gravity of the problem and the enormity of the solutions were as great in commerce and foreign affairs as depicted in the book, and I believe they were, can you imagine multiplying those by how many ministries we have? Daunting, but not impossible. Madam President, never mind, yeah? I cannot wait to read your next book. Insights into the developmental character and persona of the author is richly presented in the introduction of the book and in chapter 1, a fascinating account of a distinguished family whose public life significantly and positively impacted the developmental momentum of Liberia during their times, yet whose private lives exude warmth, support, patriotism, values, determination, and success. These, plus the author's tangible, extensive, and diverse competencies, experiences, professional connections, and accomplishments as an international civil servant with UNIFEM, UNDP, UNIDO, UNESCO, etc., helped much to shape the character we call Her Excellency Olubanke King-Akerele. She was well equipped with the tools to effectively address the multiplicities of distraction and hurdles she encountered and to leave the reformative legacy she did at Commerce and Foreign Affairs. The succeeding chapters 2 to 6 traced sequentially the author's reformative sojourn as Minister of Commerce and Industry, then Minister of Foreign Affairs, each presenting devastating obstacles and indispensable lessons. Revelations of some of these are just simple, mind-boggling. For example, imagine as the first challenge for a new Minister of Commerce and Industry, the attempted sabotage by expatriate merchants, deliberately pursuing a scheme that would create a shortage of rice in the country simply to get a higher price for themselves. Let me whet your appetite and have you read how effectively and efficiently Banky and her boss dealt with that which had the potential of becoming yet another rice riot, based on a possible fright and anxiety on which the perpetrators must have depended. I find the solution in the book quite amazing, particularly the minister's utilization of young university students in a surveillance capacity to solve this issue, which concluded with a substantial increase in the number of Liberian rice importers. I will not even get into revelation in the book about the leasing of port warehouse at ridiculously low prices and then subletting them at ridiculously high prices. I will not even get into the problem narrated in the book about the disguise of some entities acquiring land for philanthropic reasons and then using land for business enterprises. In addition to solving some of these Herculean problems, the book outlines critical steps in the establishment of a first-rate and indispensable quality assurance national standard laboratory, and Paris right behind me here, in developing and instituting Liberian Entrepreneurship Development and Enterprise Empowerment Initiative. The growth centers, spearheading industrial development through strategic partnership and promotion of Liberian intellectual property rights, among others. There were many things I got to understand about commerce that I was totally ignorant about. For example, I had to pay a buyback fee for a shipment. I don't know what the devil that was until I read the book, but I paid it though. The book goes in succeeding chapters to describe major necessary reformative changes at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the success of which I'm tempted to attribute not only to competence and experience, but also to genealogy. What is very impressive about this aspect of Minister King-Akerele's reform is that they were in congruence with the developmental agenda of the country and focused on the mission of the ministry. I get the impression from the book, put simply, very simply, that if Banky had a choice between painting the foreign ministry in Liberia or the embassy in Washington, she would paint the embassy in Washington. She focused an inordinate amount of attention and energy in restoring our embassies around the world to respected entities. For many of them, from its status of decadence, low staff salaries, significant arrears in payment of salaries and rent, from just a general state of malaise, unrepresentative of the international momentum being put in place by President Sirleaf. Some embassies and chancery, as the book shows, had even been illegally and fraudulently sold or confiscated during what Minister Akerele referred to in her book as the years of the locusts. But much respect, reform, and accountability were brought to both the foreign ministry, central administration, for example, the passport section, and the foreign missions, following assessments and reconstruction that also included a number of recalls from foreign services. Consular fees returned to government. As reported in the book, the offices of the Inspectorate General and Internal Audit were synchronized, reorganized, and re-energized. The honorary council system was completely revamped, read the book. In fact, at one point, as narrated in the book, Minister King-Akerele had to redeploy 600,000 USD from the Foreign Affairs Central Administration in Monrovia to meet needs of the foreign services. One of her bold actions, and there were many, you guessed it, she was severely criticized for nearly all of her bold actions, which, of course, resulted in reinvigorated foreign service in congruence with the developmental agenda of the country. Reading women's leadership in post-conflict Liberia, my joining, has got to be a must for all foreign service officers and international agencies involved in socioeconomic development, particularly in post-conflict countries. Finally, if I had to give one short phrase that would describe an obsession of Banky in her deliberations as a public servant, I would say capacity building and empowerment. Her indispensable role in the establishment of the Angie Brooks International Center for Women's Empowerment in Leadership, Development, International Peace and Security, including hosting of the colloquium, and the Women's Empowerment Initiative at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs were but only two examples of our empowerment obsession. Revitalization of the Foreign Service Institute and its articulation with the Egyptian Foreign Ministry Diplomatic Institute exemplifies Minister King-Akerele's obsession with capacity building. I missed her frequent calls when we were doing the articulation between the Foreign Service Institute and the University of Liberia's IBB graduate program in international studies, through which, after joint evaluation, graduates of the Foreign Service Institute may now apply 9 credits toward a master's degree at our international graduate program. In this regard, I really liked the phrase from the book, succession planning. Your Excellency, Olubanke King-Akerele, as your book points out, the underlying threads of your journey have been family, friends, faith, and personal fortitude. Congratulations, we are indeed, as a country, very grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dennis, for that insightful review. Very, very revealing, and we appreciate that very much. We're now going to ask for some comments and interaction, conversation with the panel, both here and in Monrovia, and then we're going to open it up to the floor for you to be able to ask some questions and make some comments. We'll remind everyone that we're being webcast live, and so when we do turn to the audience, please wait for a microphone to come to you before you make any remarks and to introduce yourself, so you get picked up by the webcast. I'm not going to give the full biographies of all of our panelists. If you've got them before you, but let me introduce them real quickly for those you haven't been introduced yet. Of course, Banke, you've all heard from, and you know quite well who she is. We have here to my immediate left Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, who's an old friend, former U.S. Ambassador to Liberia, and currently the Director General of the Foreign Service. Very proud of her career. Thank you very much for being with us. Then we have Ohene Oso Nyanin, who is the former World Bank Country Director for Liberia. Very happy to have you with us, sir. And then we have Connie Morris Hope, who is of Caprice Coaching and Consultancy, an old friend and colleague of Banke's. Now, on the Monrovia side, of course, Dr. King, I owe you a very, very abject apology for not introducing you at the right time, but Dr. King is with us. And then we have as well Judge Emma Shannon Walser, who's Liberia's first woman circuit court judge, Ambassador Rudolph van Balmus, who's Liberia Ambassador to Ghana and has come from Dakar to be with us today. Come from Accra to be with us today. And then I think we have, of course, Yvette Chesa, who's already spoken and will be with us during the panel discussion. And it's Teo Sowa there, interim CEO of Africa Women Development Fund. Teo, okay, one of our co-sponsors. And then let me introduce my co-moderator in Monrovia, who you've already heard about, C. William Allen, who is a writer and administrator and currently serves as the Director General of the Civil Service. We'll give him a little time to respond to Banke. He's, along with being a former Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Dr. Allen is a distinguished academic and who, beyond his teaching career, has authored 2 novels. Dr. Allen, would you like to say a few words of greeting before we get into our conversation with the panel?
Yes, thank you very much, Steve. We are very pleased on this end to be part of this book launch. And I'd like to add my own voice to that of Dr. Dennis and the President and all those who have spoken before me. For me, it was a privilege to work with Banke when she first joined the government in the second quarter of 2006 as Minister of Commerce and Industry, a position she held until August 2007. And of course, subsequently as Minister of Foreign Affairs from September 2007 to 3 November 2010. At the time, we were involved in implementing the President's vision and policy of reforming the Liberian civil service, a process that is ongoing as I speak. And it was very refreshing to have someone like Banke join the cabinet at that time, because it became clear from the get-go that she took reform very, very seriously. In the book, I think Banke does an excellent job in capturing the details of the challenges she faced in delivering reforms. As we all heard earlier, there's always resistance to change. In the case of Liberia, there were many who were comfortable with the status quo, as is clearly documented in the book. When Banke came on board, it was very clear that she had no intention to preside over the status quo. So I found a willing partner very, very quickly in that process, and it was very gratifying for me in the reform work that we're trying to do. In Chapter 3, for example, titled Commerce Honors Siege, as Dr. Dennis said, she documents the challenges she faced, which were only an appetizer for the even greater challenges she was to encounter later on when she was appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I think in Liberia, we all cry about the issue of corruption, but Banke grabbed the bull by the horn when she went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and tried to tackle this particular problem. We supported her in several ways, that are clearly documented in the book. But at the time, we had several short to medium-term capacity building programs. And as Dr. Dennis said, the issue was capacity. There was a shortage of human capacity. There was a lack of institutional capacity, and something that Banky mentioned as the no money syndrome. People always saying that there was no financial resources to conduct reform. So you can see that the challenges were Herculean for her, and I think she clearly documents this very well in the book. But I think to sum it all up, it is fair to say that Banky left the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in better shape than she met those institutions. And anyone who's interested in a playbook, as I call it, on how to do reform in a post-conflict environment, benefit from reading this book. It is somewhat a good case study, not only for leadership role in post-conflict societies, but middle and top-level public sector managers who might find themselves in this situation as Banky did between 2006 and 2010. So I think basically Banky spoke from the heart about what she experienced. I think she was very, very candid about it. And Banky will always be Banky because she doesn't mince her words. I'd like to sort of stop here and sort of open this up so the other members of the panel can make some intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen, very much. Appreciate your remarks. I don't know if Banky is embarrassed or saying, you damn betcha. Now, we discussed, this is the free flow part of the program for the next hour for all of us to get involved. And we do want each of the panelists to have a moment, particularly those who haven't spoken yet, have a moment to say a few things. And you might have even prepared some remarks. But I thought maybe we'd kind of pair it. And I thought maybe turn first to Judge Walser and possibly Ambassador Thomas Greenfield, because both as a Liberian working within the system and an outsider who was there and very intimately involved, you both really were able to watch the whole transition process and the role both of Banky and the president, and can comment really critically on the role of women's leadership and how that evolved. So maybe we can start there with one or the other of you beginning that. Judge Walser, maybe you would like to start.
I'm Emma Shannon Walser, and it is an honor and pleasure to participate in the launching of my journey, especially women's leadership in post-conflict Liberia. I have read the book, and I could not put it down. It should be a compulsory textbook for our students, because they will learn that when there is a will, there will be a way. Banky, I congratulate you on a book well written, and I look forward to your other books. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Judge Walser. Linda.
Good, thank you very much. Let me just start by saying how pleased and honored I was to be asked by Banky and the Wilson Center to participate in the launching of this book. I feel like during the period that I was in Liberia, 3.5 years, when Banky was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, that I participated in the history making of Liberia. I did prepare a couple of brief remarks because I really didn't want to forget to say some of the things that I wanted to say. Let me just start by saying how important this book is as a contribution to Liberia's historical record. I hope it will lead to other books by other Liberians. I heard the President say you have 2 more in the making, so we'll look forward to those books as well, because I think it is so important that this stage of Liberia's history is not forgotten. I think women all over the world and throughout history have played an important role in forging peace and reconciliation in a post-conflict situation. But I think Liberia is a special example of that and is the most relevant for this period in our history. And it's a period in Liberia history that must not be forgotten, as so many women and so many efforts by women in Liberia contributed to the history making that took place in Liberia. And I particularly want to thank you, Minister Olubanke King-Akerele King, for your efforts and for the outstanding work you have made in contributing to Liberia's positive history, because everybody looks at the negative part of history. It's very easy to remember. People never forget the bad history. They will, for some reason, forget the good history. And having your book here contribute to the record of that history, I think is very important for Liberians. Liberians, having elected the first woman ever to be elected president in Africa, is clearly on the cutting edge of history. And while history is still being made in Liberia, because I think its history is something that never ends, historians will credit Liberia, particularly Liberian women, for being the most advanced and I think most forward-leaning of all of Liberia's leaders in the history of the country. But more importantly, I think the example that the women of Liberia provide for the rest of Africa, not only from the president, but to all the female ministers that she appointed, gives young Liberian women and African women hope for the future. So again, I want to congratulate you. I read an interview you did, I think last week, and one of the things that you said in that interview really resonated with me, and that is that Liberia's conflict really did not just destroy the infrastructure. It destroyed the fiber of the society. It destroyed people's spirits. And so not only is Liberia in the process of rebuilding its infrastructure, but it's rebuilding hope and rebuilding the spirit of the people. And your book makes a tremendous contribution toward that effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Well, this is kind of arbitrary now, but I thought maybe we'd turn to another one of our Liberian participants in Monrovia, Ambassador Balmus. Banki was once your boss, so you know sort of from the inside of the Foreign Service what her stewardship was like. How about giving us some insights on that?
Thank you. Up to today, I still refer to Mrs. Akerele as Minister Akerele. Yeah. So, Madam Minister, if you don't mind, I'll have to refer to you as Minister Akerele. I had the excuse me. I had the occasion of interacting with Minister Akerele when she was the Minister of Commerce. She came to Ghana, Accra, and had to meet with the then Minister of Trade and Industry. Fortunately, she informed me that she knew him personally because he had also worked in the UN family. He was a former UNDP family member. I think that was Minister Shrematin. What Minister Akerele wanted to do was to immediately begin setting standardization at the Ministry of Commerce. So she wanted to pick the brains of her counterpart, and this went well. But for me, I sat there and I was wondering, wait a minute, this minister is moving faster than the speed of light. I'd never had the opportunity of having a minister who wants things done like yesterday. We carried out the work with the Trade and Industry Ministry in Ghana. She left for Accra. She left for Monrovia. That was that. Later did I know she was coming to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She came to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I was the one she picked on. In a nice way. She challenged me and said, Ambassador, we need to start training the junior officers in the service. You must come up with ideas. What do we do? So we sat down, and I suggested, I said, Madam Minister, you need to send some of the junior officers. It's not only the training at Foreign Service Institute will solve the problem. We need to have them come out and have a feel of what actually the embassy is going through. go back, work in the ministry for about a year before being posted. The minister said that's an excellent idea. But I told her, as the Liberians do, we always complain, no money syndrome as is there. She told me, Rudolph, I will find the funds. Are you prepared for me to send officers there? I said, yes, ma'am. She said she's going to get UNDP, she's going to get the World Bank, she's going to get them, and they will have to cooperate. By the time I looked, I had 2 junior officers. One came in for a year. The second one came in for 6 months. The third one came in for 3 months. And fortunately for me, I had a colleague of mine who was sent after being commissioned to a European country. She came in for a month just to have a feel of what is done in the embassy. Having said that, the minister did not rest there. She said, no. I need to restructure the archives in the ministry. Ambassador, go to the Ghana National Archives and see what arrangements we can come up with. Yes, Madam Minister. Got that done, and she found funding again. They came over for training. The point was she was trying to recapacitate the ministry. We were low on human resource, very low. This credit, I believe, must be given to Foreign Minister Akerele. Madam Minister, I must thank you for this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. Good insights into her character and her leadership. Let me direct the next question to one of our participants here on stage, Connie Morris-Hope, a colleague of long-standing. You were, as I understand it, in Liberia in 2010 with Minister King-Akerele's invitation, and you taught a 6-week course on leadership for emerging Liberian diplomats in the Foreign Service. What did you observe during that period, and what could give us further insight to the capacity building and leadership development that we've been hearing so much about with Banke?
Boy, I wish I had more time.
I bet.
But I went to Liberia under the auspices of USAID to teach a 5-day course on leadership and supervision for new American Foreign Service officers. So when I got there, Banke asked me to do this 6 weeks course at the Liberian FSI, and I said, of course. So I did, and I had to go back a few years because I went home to Liberia, say 2006, and I went up to Booker Washington Institute, which is a technical school in a town, Kakata. And to make a long story short, I went there to talk with women who were in a night school program. These were market women who could not go to school during the day, who had missed their years of schooling because of the war and so forth. And as an executive coach and leadership development person, I was trying to get them to think about their future. I was asking them what was their future like in their vision. And they couldn't do it. Their spirit was broken, as we've heard earlier, and that was just so typical. So fast forward to 2010, when I was in this classroom with these young diplomats whom had been selected by Banke to be in this program, and I coached them as well as teaching this course, and the difference was amazing. I mean, these were the same aged people, but when we talked about the future, we talked about their dreams, we talked about their visions, they could do it. They had a purpose because they now had something to look forward to, and it was really amazing, and it was very, very powerful for me to make that contrast. So we talked about why this was so, and we talked about leadership and talked about Banke's leadership as the minister and why they had this vision. And all of them said it's because, you know, she has made us believe that there is something that we can give to our country. And it really was powerful. So I went there, you know, with the idea of writing something about leadership and about Banke's leadership at the ministry. And I was going to use a format or a structure that's based on a theory, if you would, that's called the 5 practices of exemplary leadership. And I looked at those 5 practices and I thought about Banky, so let me share them with you. Model the way is the first one. And she was the model for these young diplomats. The second one is inspire a shared vision, and she certainly did that. This is why they were so enthusiastic about what they were doing. The third is challenge the process, and she certainly did that, challenge the process. I can't say more of that. Enable others to act, and she certainly did that. I mean, each one of these exemplary practices of exemplary leadership were exactly what she was doing. The last one is encourage the heart, and she certainly did that. So, writing the article that I may eventually do, I have my structure, because what I suggested to her as she was writing her book, that these could be case studies for leadership, because she certainly does do that. So I mean, there's so much more I could say, Steve, but just to give you an insight, and this, the capacity building, the succession planning, and so forth was all there, and it's captured in the book. So it was my pleasure to work with you to bring the book to fruition.
Thank you, John. Thank you. From all I hear, as a former Foreign Service officer, by the way, who came through our system, it sounds like you were doing a lot more in training your diplomats than for preparation for the world they had to deal with than we often do in the United States for ours. Hi, now, Director General of the Foreign Service. This is 40-year-old information.
40 years old.
So we'd like to see this kind of leadership training. No, in conflict resolution work and other things, we are lacking often, and I hope it's changing. Mr. Nyanan, World Bank representative in a post-conflict, very difficult society. A lot of work before you. How did you cooperate and work with Banky and her ministries, and how did you see this?
Thank you, Steve. Let me also congratulate Banky for a job well done and the continuation of something that I think is exemplary in several ways, and I'll get to that in a minute. Thanks for the invitation to participate in this. And Steve, I'm glad that you asked me the question that you did, because I wasn't sure where I fit in all of this. I never worked as a diplomat, not in a foreign mission, at least, in that sense.
Great diplomacy in the World Bank needed.
Yeah. Thank you. We in Liberia have an old crew adage that says that the big elephant, right, when you stand before an elephant, what you see depends on where you stand. So I can only talk about Banky from the perspective of the rear of the elephant, which is where we, the development partners, usually need to be able to push this animal forward. That's the perspective that I bring to this. I wanted to start off by perhaps contributing to something that has already been said, which is when people hear conflict in Liberia or the challenges that Liberia faces today, it's very easy for people to just go back to 14 years of conflict. Now, Liberia's challenges, in my view, started before 1979, 1980. It dates back. So it's an enormous task. While Banky suggests, and I agree, that the manifestation of the challenges that Liberia has faced could be seen in the innermost of its people, from my vantage point, it is shocking to have walked into Liberia to see the quantum devastation of infrastructure. That was a broken country. Now, it's from that, again, vantage point that it becomes, I think, important for us to today celebrate, while this journey that Banky is now written about and others are going to write about, we need to celebrate Liberia as indeed a poster child for post-conflict reconstruction. Liberia is showing the way to other conflict-affected states as to how you do it. Now, if I come back to my role and my vantage point, it's only, Banke, to give an affirmation of what I saw, as I've been asked, during the short period that I was in Liberia, but it started before Liberia when it relates to you. But let me start off on Liberia. What impressed me most was the reform orientation of the government of Liberia. This was a government that was focused, and if you don't believe it, look at how fast Liberia entered the HIPC initiative and how fast it came out. That in itself will tell you. If you're not sure about that, look at the quantum of debt that was relieved of Liberia, again because of the reform orientation that the bank and our colleagues in the IMF saw. But I think it's also important from a partner perspective to see the ownership that Liberia's leadership, including Banke and her colleagues, had for this reform. These were not reforms imposed from outside, but rather homegrown ideas, because they themselves had to do this outside Liberia before they came in, working with their colleagues in Liberia to move an agenda that they believed in. Mm-hmm. And it's only from that perspective, therefore, that it made it easier for us as partners to be able to work with Liberia. Liberia did manage for results. There was a results orientation, and if you didn't know that, please check with Linda, and she will tell you. Sitting at the LRDC meetings with the president at the chair, it was the mother of all donor coordination mechanisms. I don't know, in almost 30 years of work in this field, a president that chairs literally on a monthly basis a donor community looking for results. What have we achieved? How far have we gone on this road construction? How many kids are we actually now bringing back into school? That, indeed, managing for results was a key part of this effort. Now, the role of women, clearly, under the leadership of the president, the number of women, including Banke, in the cabinet is something others perhaps can speak about. While a lot has been written, Banke, about your perspective, say, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what I saw most, when I arrived in Liberia, when you were in finance, was when you were in foreign affairs, was what you indeed had done in commerce. You probably have forgotten about the diagnosis trade integration study that you started. You had moved on to foreign affairs when the study was finished, and we needed to get government to make decisions on the recommendations. Guess who was leading that charge? It was Banke with others. She wasn't the Minister of Commerce at that time, but with Dr. Allen and others, they were in the room making those kinds of decisions. So I saw firsthand how dedicated Banke was. But perhaps what I want to talk about last, Banke, is that I didn't come to Liberia before I knew you. I saw how well you worked with others in Zambia, where you and I worked together. But when I came to Liberia, I saw even more how effective you were in getting all of us around the table in the supreme interest of helping lift Liberia, as you continue today to lift Liberians. And for that, I want to commend you and all that women leadership and your cabinet colleagues that did work there. Finally, there is something that we need to say about how exemplary this lady has been. And again, it's from another vantage point of mine, which is that I have had to do this work, international work that you've already finished. But reading this book, I could see the need now, the call, for me to hurry up and also go back home.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. To be part on the ground of lifting this. So Banke has not just led the way, or led the way in Liberia. She's leading the way in teaching some of us that whatever we've learned here, the supreme task for us is to go back home, use it in the upliftment of our people. And for that, Banke, I salute you.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful sentiment. Thank you very much. Well, now I'm not sure. Dr. King, would you, you had the honor, of course, of introducing the president. Would you like to say something about your sister?
Wow. Well, enough has been said. I can only add our own inspiration to the family on what she has been doing, which is evident. That's all I have to say, really.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Now, before we turn over to the audience and a little dialogue, yes? Yes, sir. Yeah, I was going to ask if there any other comments. Mm-hmm. Anyone from the panel in Monrovia?
Yes, just no, from the panel. We'll come to the audience in a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Just one other point. One of the things that struck me, in addition to what I have said, is the amount of detail that Banky has in the book. Now, I know whenever I sat in meetings with her, I always saw her scribbling notes, but I had no idea that she was actually keeping those notes. Because as I read through the manuscript initially, and then the book itself, I was just amazed at time, dates, places, names of people, the kind of detail that she put into the book. Now, as a writer myself, what that tells me is I should begin to keep more copious notes. Because at some point...
Your conference is scheduled to end in 2 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Is that correct? 2 minutes. So, you know, that detail was a lesson learned for me. And I hope others can also learn a lesson from that.
Can we have Jana Foster?
Jana Foster to close.
AWDF.
There's 2 minutes left.
Oh, Steve, since we have only 2 minutes...
No, I think we'll have more. We'll sort that out. Carry on.
Okay, thank you.
No, yes, sir.
Okay, Steve, it's back to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, William. Any other comments before we move to the floor? Linda, Connie? Now, Banky, you haven't had a chance really to respond. Do you want to say anything before we turn you over to the audience?
No, I'm completely overflowed. I think let's get whatever comments so that we don't run out of time. I'm just very excited about what I call touching lives. Touching lives. I've seen and I've heard that lives have been touched. One has touched lives, lives have been touched the other way. And for me, it's the core of it. It's touching lives. Winnie went and mentioned about Zambia. We have here the Zambian ambassador with whom we all worked in Zambia. And
work very closely here.
Yes,
as well.
and very closely. And she was one of my UNDP national counterpart in leadership development for Southern Africa and program for innovative cooperation among the South. So I would just like to leave it at that and try to absorb what all this means.
Your conference is now over. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
No, say it out loud, Derek.
There's a minute they can.
Oh, we've lost Monrovia.
Oh.
Please wait. Call cleared. Okay. All right.
We haven't lost them yet.
Yeah, we've lost them. That's us.
Oh, we have, yeah. Well, we're still
I'm
on.
sure they'll dial us back in.
They're going to try to dial us back in. So let's carry on. We still have about 26 minutes of 36 minutes of the webcast. So let's turn it over to the audience for some questions to Banky or any other member of the panel, or to all of them if you want. Wait for the microphone. We'll recognize your hand when you raise it. Oh, surely some burning questions on. Yes, right there. Uh-huh. There's the microphone. And please introduce yourself.
Yes. Good morning to all. My name is Gabriel Williams. I am the Minister Counselor for Press and Public Affairs at the Liberian Embassy here in Washington, D.C.
Uh-huh.
Mine is basically a comment and not a question. I served as a Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Information, Culture, and Tourism in Monrovia and had the opportunity for a few years to work with Mrs. Akerele. In the book, he had mentioned about the rice crisis at the beginning of her administration at the Ministry of Commerce. At the time, as I indicated, I was with the Ministry of Information, actually charged with the responsibility to provide technical support in terms of public information dissemination. I was out of the country at the time when the crisis started. She had tried to reform the industry, the rice industry. And for the purpose of history, rice was one of the problems we had in our country that eventually led to the civil crisis over many decades, and then the total disintegration of our country. And to the extent that expatriates controlled this industry and manipulated it to destabilize whenever they wanted. And one of her determination from the get-go was to reform this industry, bring in Liberians, empower people to get more involved. But the whole process got misunderstood. She was demonized. The expatriate decided to use the media, paid off some section of the media to demonize her. So when I came back, my minister asked me to go to the Commerce Ministry to help to see how we could craft communication policy that would change this thing around. So I got there that day. It was a very tense time. And after a series of discussions, I told her, Madam Minister, I think, with your support, once you support me, we can change this whole thing around. And she just went back in her chair like that. She said, good Lord, this is all I have been wanting to hear all along. I've been trying to change this thing for the better of our country, and here I am being demonized. To make long story short, within 2 weeks, with a well-crafted media policy and campaign, we were able to change things around by going to our people, telling them that what this government is doing is in their interest. It's for the long-term benefit of our country. And so that happened. The second personal engagement was during the Ghana crisis, when we had over 45,000 Liberian refugees. And this time, she had moved to the foreign ministry, and we had this very serious crisis in Ghana with Liberians creating problems, and the Ghanaian government deciding that they needed the Liberians expelled from the country because the Liberian civil crisis was over, so they could no longer entertain refugees in the country, and they had already detained some of the Liberians. And there was all this rumor coming into Liberia, people using the airways to say that Liberians have been killed in Ghana. I was on the beach jogging that early Saturday morning when the minister called me, Gabriel, where are you? I said, I'm exercising, Madam Minister. She said, did you hear what's going on the radio? I said, no, ma'am. She said, well, you need to hurry up and come here by 9 o'clock. This was like 8 o'clock. Come here by 9 o'clock. The president is out of the country. We need to begin to put together, a crisis management team, how we'll tackle this thing, because it has the potential to not only create problem for Ghana-Liberia relations, but to create some destabilization for our country. To make long matter short, I was part of the delegation that the minister headed to Ghana. And because of her skills, the Liberian government was able to reach agreement with the Ghanaian government that today stabilize that refugee situation. And so I just wanted to bear testimony to her, efforts all along, not letting, things to stand in the way that there is no barrier that cannot be broken. And I learned a lot as a young person, working with her in her tenacity to just make sure that things get done right. I just wanted to appreciate you, madam, and best wishes.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have
one on the other side.
Yeah, go ahead. And then.
My name is Edwin Selly. I'm Deputy Chief of Mission at the Liberian Embassy. I cannot resist the temptation at this moment to join all those that have spoken so eloquently about the minister. I had a personal experience at the embassy here in Washington, D.C. when she was minister, and she has conceptualized the idea of development diplomacy. So I had a conversation with her and told her that I've worked at the United Nations, has been the senior official responsible for drafting and negotiating all General Assembly resolutions for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of Liberia. She was very excited. He said, oh, I think you'll be one of those to go back to the country about 1 or 2 weeks to bring a perspective about what you have learned and what is it to be a diplomat. I was so excited because her ability to be able to point out people that can make a difference, that's a unique quality that she has. Minister, I just want to tell you thank you. It is uncommon in Liberia for luminaries to usually write books. But you are doing this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have another question over here, and you can remain seated. Okay.
She says no.
Yes. Thank you. Hi. I'm Connie Freeman, currently with Syracuse University. But, Madam Minister, we met in 2010 in Nairobi, Kenya, when we were talking about the Angie Brooks Center and my getting involved with that. Unfortunately, that didn't actually come to place, but I congratulate you on the great triumph of your book and all of the tributes that have been given today. I am most taken in this discussion with the comment that Liberia is a good case for post-conflict reconstruction. Since I'm currently teaching in this stage of my career as a professor and a counselor, and will be teaching a course on Africa and conflict in the fall, it occurs to me that I can use this. But my using this as a case study is only one drop in the bucket. I'm wondering what other plans there are to spread this case study around Africa, in particular, the elements of ownership within it. Because I think that's the key element that so often gets lost. People are overwhelmed, and therefore they have a tendency to follow the guidance of donors or partners. And yet the critical thing is that ownership is taken by the people of the country. Anyway, thank you for a lovely program today, and I'm delighted to have a chance to see you again. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. Please be back in touch with us, the establishment coordinator, Angie Brooks. We're doing some exciting things all over West Africa. Okay, Manu River Union, you still want it.
Great.
But any comments, Bunky, on the lessons learned for other post-conflict societies?
I tell you what I think. I have been in touch with Jordan Ryan, the deputy SRSG in Liberia at the time. He has left. He's a UNDP colleague. And he would have been here. What he said when I invited him and he couldn't come, he said, look, I am interested in this. And he, by the way, is in charge of the post-conflict recovery, okay, at the UNDP. Okay? He said, I am interested in this because I think we can use this model in terms of promoting how one has gone about resolution. And I think what has been said here, I would like us, after this meeting, Steve, to see if we cannot incorporate all of what has been said, this ownership issue, and really come up with some cases. It's a case study, not on the book, but these various comments, intervention, the reform agenda, so that we do indeed have a package that is homegrown with partners who were part and parcel of helping us make it happen, the president herself. So I really think that we should not just leave it at this book, but take this book so that it's become indeed an instrument responding to that. So let's, the World Bank is here, U.S. government is here, Connie is here, leadership, Wilson Center. Yes. You can take the lead on this. Wilson Center, the World Council of Women World Leaders. Okay, take the lead. You have the Africa program, leadership program and all. And let's do something with this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse me,
Linda,
Ambassador.
I'm going to have to leave it.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, you have Ambassador,
yes.
Yeah. Linda?
Okay, Ambassador.
Linda, can I
Good morning, everybody.
I want to autograph.
My name is Shira Swela, Ambassador of Zambia to the United States. if I was given 4 hours, I would not exhaust the impact that Minister Akerele has had on me. I can just sum it in one way. I mean, she's a driver. She drives things, and she's an ideas person. Some 10 years ago, I was working for an Eastern and African Institute. I was on leave, so I asked somebody to say, there's a vibrant resident that has come in. Why don't you come and say hello to her? Which is what I did. When I went there, it was literally for 2 minutes to say, hello, my name is Mrs. Swela. I work for Isam. She said, sit down. The rest is history. She's Socrates, and I'm Aristotle. She said, I've got a vision which I need disciples to execute. She called somebody else, a colleague called Mrs. Musonda. We sat down there and says, this is what I want. I've just come from Malaysia, bubbling with an idea of how we can change not only Zambia, but the continent. So we came up, we conceived a program called the Peak Performance Program, and the motto was the software for Africa's development. What hasn't come out very clearly today, apart from what she has done, is one thing. She has a passion for the youth in the continent. Not only in Liberia, but in the continent. We did a lot of work, 3 years just to bring. We did a lot of cases. We had an internship program. We had coaching programs. We have so many things that came up because of her leadership. So I just want to say, it's about time you don't...
Wilson Center, we're connected.
Yes. Good. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, Monrovia.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we've continued with some questions and answers from our audience here, and Ambassador Suela from Zambia, the Zambian ambassador to the United States, is speaking right now.
Thank you so much. I just was commenting her that she made me where I am now, because in between that program, I was the program manager. We had an international consultant, but she gave me that heavy burden. I quit my job, as you could have imagined. Now I quit my previous job because I saw something in her. So she said, can you manage this program? So she taught me one thing which has benefited me, scribbling notes. She scribbled, and one draft went 10 times. First I could go and I was so frustrated. But now, later on I found such a good skill, because when you're writing things like that, they become handy. She is writing so many books, and I've gotten a glimpse of what is to come. You ain't seen nothing yet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. We were sorry to lose you, Monrovia. In your absence, we had a couple of very generous statements of support and experience from 2 colleagues from the Liberian embassy here in Washington. And then we had a very interesting question on how can we take the lessons learned of the leadership capacity building work that Banke has been doing during her tenure as ministers of culture, of commerce and foreign affairs, to other post-conflict situations. And that's something I think we're going to look into more deeply. It's work that the Woodrow Wilson Center has been doing, as a matter of fact, in Liberia itself, as well as the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi, in post-conflict reconciliation, peace building, and these are things we will want to discuss, because I think there are great lessons learned. We're taking questions now, and we have several more audience members who've raised their hands. The first one here, second one right behind you.
Thank you very much. My name is Amy Hamlin. I work with the National Democratic Institute on women's political participation issues. This panel has been very interesting for me, because I think what's so remarkable, and we haven't discussed it very much today, about Minister King-Akerele, is the international and domestic roles you've played in some cases in very non-traditional environments for women. Having been the Minister of Commerce, also the Minister of Foreign Affairs, these are not typically realms that women are seen in around the world. And so I think the role that you've played is a really exemplary one, and you've been a wonderful role model. But my question for you would be, what challenges did you face? I can't imagine that this has been very easy for you, particularly, well, whether it was the international community or in Liberia itself. What challenges did you face as a woman leader, particularly in these non-traditional realms, and what did you do to overcome those challenges? For example, how did you engage men and get them to accept the role that you were playing? And what can we learn, both as supporters of women political leaders and as women who are aspiring to the leadership roles that you've achieved? Thank you very much.
From a time factor, because of the time factor, I just want to say, buy the book, page 5 and chapter 6 and 7. No, chapter 6 and 7 tells you the lessons for women leadership, the challenges I face, the threats to my life, very real. Chapter 6 and 7, it shows you, and I've done that because one of the audiences in the book was indeed the issue of women in leadership, the challenges, the implications is there. I've pulled it out. Take away lessons. You'll see it all there.
Now, before we take the next question, Ambassador Thomas Greenfield is going to have to depart. She has a meeting at the Department of State in just about 15 minutes. So if you want to say just a parting word.
William, can you tell us?
I just want to again commend Banky and all of the work that she's done in setting the process of establishing a record for all of us. And I will look forward to her next book and participating in the next launch of that book and in the many other books that others in Liberia and elsewhere write to set the history of Liberia in a place that we all look forward to having Liberia be in the future. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye to my friends in Monrovia.
Bye, Linda.
Bye, Linda.
I got to get myself on.
You could actually walk out with that outside.
We heard that.
Linda, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, we're ready to proceed again. The next question is right in the middle here. Ali?
Bill says hello. Is he in there? No, he didn't come this time. Just got a book.
Good morning, distinguished colleagues and honorables. It's a great pleasure to be here with you this morning. My name is Stella Goings, and I had the great privilege and opportunity to work as a part of the UN-led team that Banky led in Zambia for many years. Banky, I have two quick questions for you. The experience that you recorded in your book is just wonderful, and we have a great deal to learn from it. But it seems to me that Liberia now faces two emerging opportunities. The first opportunity has to do with the wave often referred to popularly as the Arab Spring, but it's actually a North African Spring, where we have countries with no experience in democracy with emerging democracies. So I'd quickly like to know what role you see for Liberia, a veteran of post-conflict reconstruction and building democratic principles, in providing leadership on the continent for these countries and assisting them. And the second question has to do with your lifelong passion for empowering youth. We face a world where in many of even the most developed countries, economies are faltering in part because our young people are not well prepared to take advantage of employment opportunities. And youth unemployment is in many countries at a staggering rate. I heard a statement yesterday that in Spain it was 50%. I'm wondering what steps you see next to equip Liberia's youth to compete in the new emerging global economy, and how you see Liberia's lessons being translated for other countries. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take the last one first. Indeed, one of my two books early next year is called Africa's Emergent Leadership. And it focuses on the work that we did throughout my times with the UN system, as well as in a post-conflict country like Liberia, in terms of helping to build a resilient society and getting the youth involved, and secondly, development diplomats. And that is going to be within the context of the Manu River Union. It is my passion indeed, and that is the next trajectory that I'm on. That's where I am going to indeed put myself concentrating on that. On the first issue, indeed, a lot is already happening. The President, in her mediation and conflict management role in the region, is extraordinary. It's happening at the level of the President, it's happening with the ICG, International Contact Group Guinea. I represented it for the Manu River Union on behalf of the head of the Manu River Union, the president. It is documented in there. The whole crisis situation in that sub-region. We are actively involved as part of the ECOWAS, very, very active. But very interesting, the Angie Brooks International Center, through its establishment coordinator, has as part of its dossier, International Peace and Security, Yvette has evolved from the Liberian election an extraordinary experience in what we call a situation room that backstops the election observation process. And we took it from Liberia. The AU asked us to help the people in Senegal during the election process. It's an entire process, and we're going next to Sierra Leone. The African Union has asked for this to be replicated on the continent. Basically, you don't just send observers in. The women have led a charge where an entire process of management of the effort to have a non-violent electoral process is taking place, so that Liberia is indeed playing this leadership role, both at the level of the president and at the technical level with the Angie Brooks International Center. She has documented it, and we must take all hats off to the establishment coordinator and a team of African women that are being tapped. And not only women now, we have no problem. We have the men involved with us. Yeah, because 10% of Angie Brooks emphasis are the men, the next generation. So this is happening. You can get information from the Angie Brooks on it. Very exciting.
Okay, any further questions? I see one right here, and the next one in the middle.
Hello, my name is Mwende Katwiwa, and I'm here with the United Nations Populations Fund. A question specifically for you. One of the common threads from both the panelists in Monrovia and here has been to highlight your immense achievements both domestically and internationally. And again, I just want to echo all those sentiments, but at the same time ask you what has been your most successful legacy either in any of the positions that you've taken, and does it align with what you want your personal legacy to be, or do you have further visions of what your personal impact should be internationally and domestically?
Well, I would say very much so, because my passion is capacity building, succession planning. The kind of leadership for our country depends on what we do, what values we put in, and how we strategize for it. So it does indeed. Succession planning, capacity building is the number one for me. And number two is helping to create a resilient, empowered Liberian society with the nationals having control of the economy and helping the destiny of our country. Regional integration is my next passion. In fact, that's the subject of the other book, the experience on the Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique Growth Triangle, and the application to West Africa. Yes.
We'll have to talk a lot about regional integration, an issue that we're spending a lot of time on here at the Woodrow Wilson Center. I thought maybe I'd turn to our Monrovia colleagues to see if there were any further questions or comments from them before we turn to another question here in the audience. William, Alan, does anyone there at your table have a question?
Yes. Does anyone have any other question or comments? Because we are standing by for Joanna Foster, who will do the vote of thanks at the end of this. Mm-hmm. But somebody else?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Yvette.
I have a comment. This is Yvette Chasimura. The comment I have is regarding the person, someone just asked King-Akerele about challenges faced. And I want to say one of the most, I think, arduous challenges she had that I personally saw was that of financial challenges. It was, she had to go to extraordinary lengths to be able to achieve some of the things she achieved. I personally saw her so many times going to her personal finances to go ahead and fill missions for the government of Liberia as Minister of Foreign Affairs, to do so many things that needed to be done, for which she would not wait, and for which she would not accept that excuse that there is no money. And she always said, even if it's a little money, let's start, let's do it. And some of us have learned from that. So, Banky, I want to thank you on behalf of the Liberian people for what you did for us. We know some of it you never even got reimbursed for, even though you think you did. Because I know, even though you keep copious records of many things you do not of your finances. And so even what you submitted, I know wasn't what you sent out. So we Liberians want to thank you for the work you did. We want to thank you for your commitment, your vision, and your patriotism to this country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach.
William, we'll come back
to you, Steve.
Yeah. William, we'll come.
We have one more comment.
Okay.
Come closer.
You have to come forward.
Hi, Becky. I'm here. This is Adelaide Gardner.
Oh, Adelaide.
And how are you today?
Good, thank you.
Hey. Actually, I just feel that I have to say something myself because I was there when she was doing some of these copious notes. I was a volunteer at Commerce. I was a volunteer with her at Commerce. And as Yvette said, she was always going to her pockets to pay for things. I mean, I can vouch for that. And not only for doing government work, but also for the workers to have some food to eat. She would actually volunteer her Liberian salary on a monthly basis for us to eat lunch because we never went for lunch. She was so busy working. And I am not surprised at your 3-volume books because, in fact, I'm surprised it's not 5. And I saw you doing something just now you should not be doing. That is writing. That's a no-no. Please stop writing. And you know the reason why. I think you've done enough so far. I told you to get a, what you call it, tape recorder? Okay. Anyway, but congratulations. I'm so happy for you. You actually have done a wonderful job here. Your picture looks fantastic. I think you may get some proposals from sighting people. That's the one they like. And so call up that sense of humor, and I've always been with you. And so, but this is just wonderful. And I know why she was sitting there with her arms in a sling and trying not to write. It was in the head, and it was coming out of the fingers. And I'm going to look forward to reading these books. The first I'm going to read, and I'm just so happy for you. Looking forward to seeing you in the next couple of weeks, and we will discuss. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Go drink a glass of champagne on me. I will drink one here too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, William, we'll return for. Is there another comment?
I have a short.
Yes, we have one more.
Just a short thing to say to you, Banky. This is Clara. And I know you had said, oh, where's Clara? Where's Unito? So I just had to make sure you know Unito was in the house. And we still stand behind you. And I know people have said a lot of things about all the great things you did in Liberia, but one of them was bringing me home. I met Banky in Ghana, and when she asked me what I was doing, I was a consultant to the Ghana Health Services. When I came home in 2006, she said, Clara, I need you to help me with standards in Liberia. I said, oh, Banky, I don't know. I don't think you have the money to pay me. Because that's the first thing I thought of, coming home from, being out of the country for so long. She said, don't worry, I'll find the money. And like Yvette said, guess what? She found the money to make me come home. She made sure I stayed at Commerce until we launched the formal opening of the lab. Banky, I'm so glad you were here for that. And again, I want to say thank you for all your help, both in the Ministry of Commerce. I learned a lot from you. Working with you on the International Colloquium, I learned a lot from you. And even just visiting you at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it was nice to be with you. And congratulations on the book. I have a lot of your colleagues and a lot of your people from Commerce and Foreign Ministry who say, please let us know when this book comes out because we want to buy some. So I'm going to be selling a book for you too. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.